Hi Soul Family, welcome back. Today I want to talk about casting spells. Do spells really work? And why they work, how they work, things like that. Now this is a very big topic. The thing is, I did realize that in my channel, I don't talk about this a lot, but this is casting spells and performing rituals. It's actually something that I do plenty in my work because it forms as part of the almost like a prescribing a solution whenever I work with my clients in terms of coaching them and bringing them closer to the outcome that they wish to achieve. One of the modalities is casting spells and rituals, as well as creating enchantments. Of course, there are other things such as me doing tarot readings, meditative, transcendental meditation, and breathwork and things like that, hypnosis and things like that. So, but then yes, I do a lot of spells, and I feel like it's time we talk about it. This is a big topic. I'm not actually hoping to cover every single thing in one video, but I feel like I should mention a few things here and there. Now, in the space of magic practitioners and spellcasters, whether they are from whatever culture they are from, with specific methods and tools and ceremonies when they perform their spells and rituals, there's just so many different types out there. I cannot even say that I do understand what all of them are, but in my space, I very particularly use the mechanics of quantum magic, and my driving force, which is the energy I propel this magic, is with the Christ conscious energy. Okay, I think this already is enough for us to go on in the video and talk about it. As most, if you have seen my previous videos, I mentioned how I used to work with archetypal energies with deities of different pantheons and sort of call in that energy when I do spells. But gradually I shifted into a space whereby I am flowing from a much more I won't say infinite. Infinite is too big a word here. It's too much to say. It's more like a generous amount of energy does flow through me when I perform my spells these days. When I channel the Christ conscious energy, imagine that it's like the coal for the fire to keep the fire burning. That is the energy source. Now, the whole thing about quantum magic, I shall break that down a little bit, but now I just want to answer the part about what spells actually are, because if you have that question in mind, I thought I should say it. What a spell is really is that whenever you have an intention about something, you want to manifest an outcome, the spell is the part where you put in tangible actions, whether it's the usage of materials or ingredients or a certain action, or using, again, you can be using incantations or not, as long as you are putting in some kind of three-dimensional space, okay? Because let's not forget, your intention resides and is born from your spirit. That's where your intention is grown. It comes from your spirit. It's in the ether. To bring it into the three-dimensional world, you need to harness the energy and perform the ritual in the three-dimensional world. So we're bringing these things together so as to bring forward the manifestation of a tangible outcome. So that's a spell. Some might say that, imagine if you are praying to God, if you are, okay, again, if whatever religion you are, I'm not going to be specific, but if you have a God or a deity, and if you are praying, putting your hands together, closing your eyes, having that conversation with whoever this God or deity is, or just the universe, and saying what you want, whether it's in your mind or out loud, to the divine being, that's a part of a spell. that saying, whether you are saying it out loud or using your voice, or you're saying it in your mind, because then you are aligning your mind with your spirit to wish upon or want or request the outcome of something. So saying a prayer, having a prayer is very much part of doing a spell. Except most spellcasters would do more than just that. We would have, again, like I said, we would put different elements together, elements that has its own properties, its own vibrational frequency that enhances and brings us closer to the outcome and the objective of manifesting the tangibility of that spell. Okay, so that's a spell. The thing is, a lot of people think, if you were to look at the Hollywood version of what spellcasters look like, you get your typical Harry Potter stuff, you get your charms, you get now what's that other movie? I forgot. Basically what witches should be like, there's always a wand, there's always a cauldron, there's always a book of spells, things like that. I would say it's actually not really necessary. Like personally, I don't have a grimoire. I'm one of those people that work a spell out by channeling the inspiration directly from source, because it's also my way of my claircognition ability, channeling from source and spirit what is required. It's almost like it's like the room of requirements in Harry Potter. If it even comes close to pop culture relation, I would say it's like the room of requirements in Harry Potter, where inside, in your heart you need something, and then the thing just shows up. So for me, that's actually how spells work for me a lot, because the situation comes when I am engaging a client who would tell me what they need, and I would start having that conversation with divine internally. And usually it's through that space, through some slow meditation and that inner conversation with divine, that I would receive the downloads, as a lot of things would come. Should we do the spell? Is this spell going to work if we do it? What's the whole purpose behind it? Who is it going to benefit? And things like that. And finally, according to my moral codes and ethos, do I want to do that spell? Now, I'm going to go into that part later on about not all spells are the same, and not everybody wants to do the spell when you ask for it. Okay. Now, so the science and the soul behind magic is that a lot of people ask, can I believe in you when you cast a spell that it will work? This is a very interesting question. It's a lot of manifestation in process. And for those who are very familiar with the law of attraction, the idea that you produce what you think. So if you think negatively, you produce negative results. You think positively, you produce positive results. If you think you already have something, even though you don't have it, physically speaking, but if you are confidently trusting that the universe has already delivered, and what you want is in somewhere, you're just physically not at that place yet, and thereby you're not receiving it yet. If you're going with the whole law of attraction method, then your thinking is tuning your frequency to that space where you will eventually come to reaching that outcome. Okay? Spells work very similarly that way. I am very specific with what kind of spells I do. For example, I don't want to do a spell that manipulates someone else's free will, which really narrows it down, because I know that in the market, there are a lot of practitioners who would very easily and happily offer spells that will alter someone's free will. Again, everybody has their own space they operate in. It's just that I choose not to go there. I know that there are also customers who are looking for such spells. So, it's supply and demand. Someone's willing to supply it, because someone has a demand for it. And for example, if let's say you want a spell that is, I think the common term out there is called a love binding spell. Okay, if you have a love binding spell and it doesn't look like that, I don't want to say that your spell look exactly like that. I just want to say that there is a very common term, and I've been asked about this a lot. That's why I'm just dropping this. Like a love binding spell, where they say, I broke up with somebody, that somebody I love very much, but that somebody is now dating somebody else. I want to get this person back. So when you say things like, I want to get somebody back and do something that they are actually not doing, it is free will manipulation. Same with, I want to convince somebody that they want me in this. Okay, so let's talk about jobs, right? Let's say you are not really qualified for a certain job, okay? But you are really gearing to get there and get this position. And you want to get the boss to believe in you, like you, or whatever, that they will just have you, they will take you. So again, this is some form of manipulating that person's perception of you so that you will get in no matter what. Same as the girlfriend-boyfriend situation, the relationship situation, like that person already broke up with you, that person's moving on to someone else, that person probably has something that they don't like about you. Maybe that's why they broke up. But now you want to shift that person's perception of you so that they will come back, which is manipulation. So very specifically, I don't do that sort of spells because I am in this part of my practice where, as a coach as well, it is more about helping the soul and individual shift their perspective such that they understand what are the lessons they're meant to learn. So when it comes to manipulating outcomes to be something that actually does not exactly help them in their path, I might even say, if I do manipulative spells, it enables these individuals that I work with to go down the same tangent of their repetitive shadow behavior. It's just not progressive. It's just not productive and not progressive. Anyways, so this is the part that I am always asked about. Do I do a certain type of spell? Can I do that? They will drop me the terms, and then I'll just tell them, sorry, I don't. But then there are many out there who would do it for you, and yeah, please go ahead. So what are the kind of spells that I do though? I perform spells that are more to help elevate a person's soul towards the path of reaching the highest version of themselves, whether it's in a relationship, in a career, in terms of their abundance and prosperity in this lifetime, maximizing their personal gifts, talents, and potential. So it's really more working on self. Okay, and I'm not saying that, I can't do a spell to help a person become more lucky or get better opportunities out there. Yes, that is still working on self. I can help people work on improving their luck, improving their chances. But I'm not going to do a spell to someone else that they're targeting to manipulate that person to bring an outcome for them. So with this out of the way, that's why I want to get into the part into what exactly are the spells that I do and how do I do it. So there are two types. One is a spell that requires no other parts handed over to the customer. Like I would gather the ingredients. Whether it's crystals, whether it's herbs, all these are materials I gather that are suited for the frequency of the spell so that I can tangibly bring along the outcome, right? I might have an incantation. Again, it's through download. I do not have like a spell book or grimoire where there is a set of words that I always write down and I always use because it's highly customized to the need of that specific case for that customer. Even if I have 10 customers asking for improving their career path, which might sound so similar for everyone, right? Even if I do have 10 customers all saying, I want a promotion in my job, I'm not going to use the same incantations for all 10 customers. That's why I don't have the grimoire, I don't have the spell book, because every customer has a little minute difference in each of them, because their lives, they come from different backgrounds, right? Some are young, some are older, some have been in the industry for a long time, some have not, some have esteem issues, maybe that's why they don't believe they'll get a job. Some, they are having a harder time to feel grounded in a certain industry, things like that. Very minute differences that each of them would have. So therefore, the spells that I do, I would download and channel the words that I need to say, and they are all specific to different spells. Okay? And then, of course, I would set a date. Now, the date, again, I do not practice the same way with which I believe a lot of practitioners would. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am actually really very appreciative of the wide spectrum of magic practitioners out there, and it marvels me until today how they do what they do, which is like, it's my cultural appreciation actually for what's out there. Like, there are those that would go by the lunar movements. There are those that would go by a certain calendar of a certain culture. There are astrologers who are also spellcasters, that they are very in tune with planetary movements and so on and so forth. I do not particularly use deep aspects of all these planetary cosmic movements that I mentioned. I do not deeply tap into them, but there are some spells that I have created and casted that are very specific to planetary movements, because the anchor, the energetic anchor of the spell has to do with the planetary movement. But if, let's say, now I'm being approached to do one spell for somebody, again, it could be about relationship, it could be about money, right? Or career, pertaining to that one individual and that situation, I may not necessarily choose according, like, astrological movements for that spell. It might be more lunar calendar based. Okay. So this is some of my own personal methods and techniques. Now, and then of course the other thing is, when I perform the spell, am I performing it to then hand something over to my client? If I do, then I am creating an enchantment or an amulet. Now I just want to showcase a few of the. Wait, can it be seen? Can it be seen if I hold it here? Yeah. Wait, is it too close? Yeah, okay, maybe here. So I have some amulets. These are made out of raw natural crystals. Like, these are just some of it. It's not all. I'm not bringing out my whole inventory. Like these. Okay, and they're all for specific different specific purposes. These are batch spell casted amulets where I generate a specific intention, channeling Christ conscious energy, and pushing that energy and intention into every amulet so that they resonate with the frequency of what I am sending out to the wearer or the carrier of these amulets. So these are made in batches. These are available in my shop if you want to have a look. I will leave a link in my description box below. These are not created specifically for one individual on like individual spells basis, but yeah, I created them in batches. So Coding this magic into the amulets requires the same method that I'm using, which is I do channel the energy that I channel from Christ conscious energy and flowing it along with other ingredients. Now, that's the part that I will not go into details because that is my method, but I do use other ingredients and other very specific tools to drive that energy and that magic to create the frequency that these items need to carry so as to benefit the wearer or carrier. Now, I want to address one thing, so I'm jumping all over the place. I do apologize. How and why is it that it works? As I was mentioning, when a person does a spell that is manipulating a different person, that person is of course not aware, right? You don't cast a spell on an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend whom you want to get back. You don't call them up and say, hey, I'm casting a spell on you right now, and the spell is to make you come back to me, so just you watch. This is gonna happen. No, that doesn't work like that, right? You do it in secret. And that's why I call that manipulation spell. One way or another, you're gonna have to use the help of some external entity besides yourself to do that work for you. Again, a lot of cultures and a lot of practitioners, they offer that, and with whatever method and whoever the entity they're working with, they are bringing about the outcome. If they want to promise a client that yes, this is gonna work, then behind that promise, there has to be a very confident, very sure source of somebody or someone, an entity that can bring you that result, which is something that you don't see, that person who's receiving it would not see. And then of course you just wait around for the outcome to happen. If it happens, and then you can say, yay, this spellcasters is 100% real. It's very, very real and very good. I managed to get what I want, you know. If I want to strike the lottery and this spellcaster managed to fetch you a set of numbers, winning numbers, and then lo and behold, after you buy the numbers you strike, you can of course you can say this spell worked. Same if you want to get somebody who's broken up with you back and the person comes back, yeah, you can say that the spell worked. But I will always tell the client, if they come to me and share their experiences this way, I can always tell them that, hey, just so you know, there is always a energetic soul level transaction that goes behind the scenes. Because what happens in the spiritual realm is not something you can in your own physical state really perceive, especially if you're not the one casting the spell, you hired someone to cast a spell for you. You want to be very, very, very informed about what really is going on so that you walk into this with both eyes open. But of course, this in this open market of spiritual practitioners and spiritual work, there are a lot of non-transparency going on. So for me, that is a very challenging topic to speak of. I would like to be more go in depth in some other video, but today I'm just going to come to this point to say that there is a type of spiritual work that goes on where even the buyer of the spell is not really aware of what goes on. They just hope to see the outcome of something, and they do get it. But a lot of things that goes on in the background is not privy. Of course it's not, because it's magic, right? It's done by the practitioner. They don't really give full transparency on every spiritual aspect that goes on behind it. It's really as mumbo jumbo as it gets when it comes to the perception of the client. The client is just, I pay money, I get outcome, right? Okay, so I talk about that's the type of spells that can go on a lot in the spiritual world. And then the spells that I create, I'm very, very I'm very careful with what kind of energy I bring into that spell. Again, because as a soul coach, my aim is always to benefit the soul. To benefit the soul, to elevate the soul, to bring about an outcome so that the soul ascends. The soul awakens and ascends and reach a state of enlightenment and awareness that maximizes their potential in this lifetime. It's not about selfish gains. It's not about greedy gains. It's not about manipulative gains. So I'll be honest, it can come across very preachy. If not, you can say it's very curated. If I meet a client, if I come across a client who has extremely specific intention on creating a spell that they want a particular outcome only and only the outcome and nothing else, more often than not, I would give a long consultation to advise them on considering possible alternate outcomes. It is really very consultative at this phase of before I even go into the spell work, because I want to help them understand that there are other ways to see things. And of course, if they do, I would say that actually this individual is conscious to some degree, because if they do understand what I'm talking about, then the degree of their soul wisdom is able to receive a better alternate perspective of how they may bring about change for themselves, or like if they, at the end of the day, if what they want is a better outcome than what they have now, the perception of what they intend to have is actually much wider. They are not so narrow-minded, so to speak. So yeah, there's work to be there. There's work to be done there. Then there's a motion. I would go ahead and say, okay, then this is how the spell is going to be. We're going to do it this way, that way. The kind of energy that I'll be channeling is so and so. I don't actually work directly with any particular deities. Now that I'm just gonna say it. Back then, I used to channel energy from Aphrodite, Hermes, Chiron, Hades. I do work with the Greek pantheon quite a bit in the past, but I've actually stopped. I now just direct Christ conscious energy into the work, and I do quantum magic. So it's quantum reality filtering and shifting in order to bring about the outcome. Okay, if I'm confusing you with what I'm saying, I do apologize, because something that I personally find difficult to put into description is what happens during quantum shifting and quantum reality checking. In everybody's, in summary, whenever someone makes an intention upon something, when they are in between the decision, there's always maybe 3 or 4, 1 or 2 choices. During this choice phase in a person's intention setting phase, in the heart, in the spirit, there's always a version of themselves that would open up to the choice that, of course, eventually, let's say I have 3 choices for a career path, okay? And the fact is that I spent about 2 weeks, a month, vacillating over these 3 choices, because they all have their own pros and cons. The kind of quantum versions of myself that would open up due to me thinking about these 3 choices would open up multiple quantum versions of myself in other realities. Now, I cannot perceive those versions of myself in those realities because I did not physically eventually take those choices. Let's say I took choice B. So the choice A, me, and the choice C, me, would have several other realities in a quantum field. But they are in a quantum field. They are not entirely not existing. They are just not existing in a dimension that I can perceive. They are they in their own version, and I cannot perceive. So if a person comes to me and say, hey, I have a lot of regrets 10 years ago in the career path of choice A, B, and C, I made choice B, But now that I've done 10 years in this company, I can't help but feel like I'm really not satisfied. So my work is to help them find that version of themselves that comes closer to what their truth actually is. Perhaps when they made that choice back then, it was not made out of truth. It was made out of vanity, made out of pride, made out of anything that is far from their real soul truth. Maybe they made the plan of going career path choice B. And then truly, maybe they are more suited for choice C, but they didn't go with it because choice C looks like, oh, it's not going to pay enough. It's not looking glamorous enough, right? So if 10 years down the road, they're like, hey, I don't really feel like me. I feel soulless in this job, There's a lot of consultative process through this. And then I'll be like, definitively, I can't even say that it's choice C that you're after. All I can say that there is a truth that you're after, and that truth should have been acknowledged 10 years ago, but you did not. Now we're going to bring you closer to that version of yourself so that you will realign and replot your path so that you come closer to that version of yourself. And that is quantum shifting, because it takes the shift of a perception and mindset. It takes a lot of intentional work actually from the person who's receiving the spell and the person who's casting the spell to bring about this shift. Which is why, like what I mentioned just now, I don't really do spells where it manipulates or work on somebody that is outside of the spell factor. Somebody who is entirely remote, that's being casted upon, that the spell is being casted upon. And that person is not going to have any knowledge or wherewithal of the fact that they have been the target of a spell, and then they're meant to be part of an outcome of somebody's desire. So I'm not doing that sort of spell. I'm actually working directly with one individual who is very, very aware, and they have hired me to cast that spell and that it will bring along an outcome. Now, why do I choose only this type of work? Because again, for me, that is soul work. That is working on a person knowing that they want to improve themselves. They want to improve the existence of their soul in this lifetime and what it's doing. And I also like to work with individuals who are aware that they are receiving an energy change as it comes. So when I cast these spells, obviously I'm trying to tune the person's frequency, right? So that they come into the right frequency and they will quantum shift accordingly. I want the person to know. I want the person to know that they are doing that. They are every bit part of that shift they're experiencing is part of what they are asking for. So it's a co-creation process. Okay? Therefore, as you can see, a lot of spells are not actually co-creation. If done the other way, which is providing spells casted on someone who's unaware, there is very little co-creation between the spellcaster, the spell receiver, and the person being casted on, right? There is very little co-creation. Perhaps the co-creation happens between the spellcaster and whichever spiritual entity behind the scene that is moving things in the ether, okay? Whereas for myself, it's a co-creation between myself and the receiver of the spell. Okay, that out of the way. That was a long one. So this applies across to when I cast an amulet, when I cast an enchantment that is specific for some users, and also rituals. Rituals like beauty and glamour rituals, rituals such as money bowl spells and rituals, money bowl rituals. All these are what I do offer in workshops, as well as individual services in my website. If you're interested, please check it out, and then you can see more details being mentioned there. So at the end of the day, to me, this is what spells are for. It's to bring about positive change, positive outcomes, and definitely a deeper level of growth and elevation for the soul. Now, I don't know how you might perceive a spell. Maybe your curiosity for spells. Again, like I said, in the open market, if you so much as Google or type like whatever love spell, money spell, career spell, friendship spell, soulmate spell, twin flame spells, there's so many out there. They call it different names. And a lot of it, yes, is very marketable names created by the spellcaster. I just want to leave this here to everyone saying, be aware, be educated and discerning, go deep and ask questions, and do not assume everything being told to you is as transparent and real as it is, because I know a lot of people are very trusting, especially if the practitioner comes across as trustworthy. Okay, so it's always good to have more inner dialogue to know why you want to do a spell. I always advise people to first look into helping themselves from a tangible space. Is there something you can do in the real world that doesn't require spiritual help, let's say? Is there something you can do in the real world that you can help rewire or tune your own inner conversation to understanding, so that you can shift a perspective and reach an outcome that is truly beneficial and truly bringing you to a higher potential? Spells are there to give you the boost, to help. It's a spiritual help. It's spiritual help, right? It's to help give you the boost, is to help you get to somewhere where you don't believe your physical person can get to that place on your own. So even as a practitioner, even as a person who casts spells, and I do get my revenue in the area, I always like to discuss with my clients if it's really necessary. Do you have your own power and sovereignty to make this thing work without a spell? And if you do, then why do we need a spell? Right? So this is where I come from when it comes to this kind of work. I really enjoy the more conversational part of it before jumping in and putting all that together in a, like the ritual part of it is fun. Don't get me wrong. I like to do it too, but it has to be actually needed. All right, so I have let me see. I'm looking at my notes in case you're wondering. Yeah, I think this is all I want to talk about in this session. Maybe there will be more I will mention in the future into extreme specifics, and then I can showcase a little bit more of what I do. But till today, this is just what I want to mention. Spells work I believe spells work always in its own way. I'm not always, sorry, let me correct myself. I don't mean spells always work. Depends on the practitioner and what they're doing. Spells can work if you are deliberately trying to manipulate somebody on the other end who's unaware. Spells can also work when you are not involving a third party and you're just working on yourself. It's depending on the practitioner and who's behind the scene. Who is the energy and the spiritual entity behind the scene, whether there is one or not, pushing it in whatever direction. And do you want to accept that as part of the transaction? Okay, so I leave you with this word, transaction. Your soul, your money, transacting with the spiritual realm. This is a question I really want to leave you to think about when it comes to hiring someone to do spells for you. Be very curated, be very discerning. Ask yourself lots of questions. Ask yourself the purpose and the reason why you're doing it. Ask yourself what's the purpose and reason the spellcaster is doing it for you as well. And yeah, finally, this is what I leave you with. I will see you at the next one.